everyone, I'm Tabitha, and today we're talking about unpopular opinions. If you watch this channel, you already know that I love to talk about books. There's no better feeling than completely fangirling about a book that you've fallen in love with to other people. So, when I saw that there is a thing going on in BookTube with people talking about their unpopular book opinions, I knew I was going to have to do a video like that. So today, we're diving into books that I think are either underrated or overrated based on their average rating on Goodreads. I don't completely know how this video is going to go because I haven't really dived into my own Goodreads to take a look. So we're going to be kind of looking at it together, and what you see is what you get.
I'm a little afraid that I'm going to get a ton of romance in the books that I think are overrated, and then I'm going to have to go on a rant about my romance. And I didn't really want to do that, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay, let's start with the books that I think are overrated. These are going to be the books that the Goodreads average is 4 stars or higher because Goodreads in general, the community just loved them, but that I gave 1 star to. So to do this, I'm going to go to my Goodreads, go to my read books, and sort by rating, low to high, and I'm going to skip over the ones I didn't rate, my books, and I'm looking for ones that are rated 4 stars. So on this screen that you're seeing right here, this is from my phone, which doesn't show the average rating, but the laptop that I'm using does. So I'm just showing you the fastest way to do my screen grab here. So these ones that I'm skipping over are rated lower than 4. So although I gave them 1 star, Goodreads tends to agree with me. And for some of them, I'm thinking, thank goodness, because I do not want to talk about all of these. Some of them were just not my favorite books. Oh, no. See, now I knew I would have to rant about romance. Okay, here's one right here. The McGregor Brides by Nora Roberts. So let's see. Wow, over 13,000 people have rated this one. It has an average rating of 4.08 stars, and you can see that I gave it 1. Yeah. So let's talk about why. I read this book in September of 2018, so you're not going to find a review for it on my channel. In fact, I noticed it doesn't even have one on Goodreads. That's because this book predates my YouTube channel. But I very clearly remember this book, and part of the reason why I remember it so clearly is because I really didn't enjoy this one. In fact, I wrote a blog post about how I read like 19 adult romance books in a year in order to figure out what it was I liked or didn't like about the genre, and this was one of them that forced me to take like a self-imposed ban on romance. It was that bad. But this one came recommended from someone actually because it's 3 romance short stories. So they thought it would be good for me to try since I was doing this trying romance thing. So basically this book, although it's the 7th in a series, could act as a standalone. It's 3 short stories that follow this grandfather, who I guess was a star in some of the first books in the series. And the grandfather, the patriarch of the McGregor clan, is literally going to set his granddaughters up with the people he thinks they should marry in order to pass his bloodline on to heirs. Like, I already kind of hate the premise of this book. But I kind of figured that if I ignored the creepy, my grandfather's picking a spouse for me because he wants me to have babies line, maybe I could enjoy the romance. The problem was that the 3 women featured in the story didn't want, in most cases, in some cases, I don't remember if it was all 3 or just 1 or 2, didn't want a relationship, very happy with their life, weren't looking for anything. So I feel like that takes the creepy up a notch. These are adult women who are happy with their life, happy with everything going on. They're not looking for a relationship, and this relationship is almost being forced down their throats. So the creepy factor didn't go away. My biggest problem with this book overall was that the lack of consent about being in this relationship was overwhelming. It almost seemed like it was being literally shoved at them. This is the book that had a scene where a woman told the guy no, and he kissed her anyway, and that was supposed to be sexy. I think this was even the one where he kissed her anyway, and she was like squirming to get away, and somehow that was supposed to be sexy. Like, this is not sexy. This is lack of consent. It's a huge problem, and I wish that we would stop putting this in books like it's supposed to be something that we look for. I literally hated that. In general, this book was loaded with misogynistic stuff. It was loaded with stuff that made me incredibly, incredibly uncomfortable. And it had that formulaic cliche ending that I have heard so much about in romance. I feel like I could rant about why I didn't like this one for a really long time. But I'm not going to do that. For me, this was my point in going, okay, maybe I just am not the reader they're looking for with adult romance. So when you hear me talk about that self-imposed romance ban, it's books like this that brought that on for me. I just realized they make me too uncomfortable and angry, and I almost threw the book across the room. So I'm going to move on from that one before I lose my mind. Yeah? Yeah. Okay, so it turns out that there aren't any other books on my already read list that I've rated 1 star that are a 4-star or higher average. But there are a couple, there is one that was rated 4-star or higher average that I gave 2 stars to that I feel like is worth mentioning. So that would be this one here. Armageddon. It's the 5th book in the Dangerous Days of Daniel X series by James Patterson, co-written by Chris Grabenstein. You can see that it has 1,796 ratings, which is actually kind of low for a James Patterson book. It has an average rating of 4.01, and I gave it 2 stars. So the reason why I want to talk about this one is because I kind of looked at the 5-star comments to see what were people loving about this one. Did I need to give it a reread? Did I miss the boat? I've actually already done a full review on this one in my August wrap-up, so I'll link that down in the comments if you want to watch it. But basically, if you already watched it, you know that what I didn't like about this one is it was a little predictable. It wasn't as good as the previous books in the series, and it followed kind of a cliche pattern that I wasn't used to seeing from this author and in this series. But looking at these 5-star reviews, it was pretty clear to me that a lot of these people just loved the premise of the Dangerous Days of Daniel X. They loved the idea of a teenage alien hunter on Earth hunting aliens and saving us all from ourselves. And I have to be honest with you, I completely agree. I thought the first book in the series was absolutely wonderful. I thought the second and third books in the series were great. And it just started to taper off after that, turning out to be this 5th one where I decided to end the series, even though I think it goes on, and gave it only 2 stars. So I think maybe for me, I agree with all of you, which means it's not really an unpopular opinion, that this series was wonderful and that this premise was great. The unpopular opinion for me is that I think maybe the series shouldn't have gone 5 books. Now let's switch to talking about the books I think are underrated. I have a feeling this is going to be a little more fun for me. So this is going to be exclusively books that I rated 5 stars, but when I look at Goodreads, they're coming in as just meh. So I'm going to say 3.5 or below. So basically, I think these books are amazing, and maybe Goodreads doesn't agree. This is interesting, by the way. You may remember when I did the screen grab, there was only 1 page of 1 star, but when I go on Goodreads, I have pages of 5 stars. So it goes with my book lover image, I guess. All right, let's dive in. And remember, this feed you're looking at here is from my phone, from the app, and the app won't show the averages, but I am looking at the averages on the laptop to make sure I'm being correct. So let's see. Looks like I'm having a lot of luck. A lot of people who are like, yes, I love that book too. Oh, are you kidding me? Oh, okay. So apparently the Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling, although it has over 285,000 reviews, it has an average rating of only 3.3, even though I gave it 5 stars. Okay, so apparently I think this book is underrated. Looking at some of these comments, okay, here's what I'm noticing. Looking at some of these reviews, it seems like the consensus is maybe, like the very first review that I saw when I filtered by 1 star is somebody who mentions they only read it because of Harry Potter and they were wishing it was a Harry Potter spinoff. It's not. Spoiler. So I think maybe looking at these reviews, it's helping me see that maybe this is why J.K. Rowling chose to publish her other written for adults books under Robert Galbraith. It seems like either the low reviews are either saying, I thought this was going to be like magic and fun and fantasy just like your other ones, or they're saying they didn't read it because they thought Harry Potter was overrated. And this is not in the same universe. It's not a sequel. It has nothing to do with it. It's a different book. It's written for a different audience. Maybe that's what the Robert Galbraith thing was all about. Yeah, a lot of people saying the book is boring. Slow pacing. All right, here's the deal. This book, The Casual Vacancy, is about a small town. So I think, and I don't think I'm giving her too much credit here because she is the mastermind who brought us Harry Potter, so I can assume that some of this was intentional. I think the pacing behind this feeling slow was because it's about a small town, right? If any of you have ever lived in a small town, maybe you get what I'm coming at. Small towns feel like they move slower. They have this slow vibe to them. And so I kind of feel like the pacing of that was done on purpose to give us that same small town vibe. So I don't know, I kind of like that. I thought that was part of the majesty that was Casual Vacancy. I don't know. That's what I think. I loved this book. Character development. Okay. Character development. I'm seeing a comment here about character development. Again, I think that was important. So she does spend a lot of time building up some of these characters and introducing them to you very slowly. But that turns out to be really important. So she's kind of she's doing a challenge with stereotypes and image, and almost that underplaying role, that underplaying plot line is almost about your role in life and your stereotypes and that kind of thing. And so I think that was on purpose. That deep character development, that slower character development to the start was because of that. Okay, here's what I'm going to say. Overall, I gave this one 5 stars and I love this book. And I would say ignore the name on the cover then, because so many people seem to have a problem with the fact that this is J.K. Rowling. Either they think she got here because of that, or they thought it was going to be like her other ones. Both of those are not true. So ignore the author's name on the cover. If you like books that are beautifully descriptive and spend lots of time developing character, and maybe you're even a person who appreciates small towns or comes from a small town, I think you're going to love this one. Casual Vacancy has a lot to offer in that department, and I really liked this one. So I am going with this, that I do think this book was incredibly underrated. Let's dive back out and see what the next one was that was underrated. I think it's better than Goodreads thinks. Are you kidding me? Okay, this is one of my favorite books, actually. Okay, so apparently I think Manic Pixie Dream Girl by Tom Levine is underrated. Wow. Okay, so this book has 448 ratings. It has an average of 3.38, and you know that I gave it 5 stars. So I'm going to dig into a few of these and see if I can figure out why. I should mention that I read this one in March of 2018 before I had this channel, so my review isn't on Goodreads or on this channel, so I should probably remedy that and get that review on there. Okay, so reading some of these, 1 stars who didn't really love it. Okay, a lot of people are having a problem with the title. So this is interesting, and that didn't bother me, and I can explain why. There's 2 reasons why this didn't bother me. First, I had never heard of this Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope thing before hearing about this book. So I don't know, I was behind the times, or I'm old, or whatever. I had just never heard of that. So I can't speak to whether or not this addresses that Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope, other than a little bit of research that I've done. I can say that I knew going into it, Tom didn't pick this title. The publishers changed the title that Tom had to Manic Pixie Dream Girl. So I can say I didn't put a lot of stock in the title choice because of that. So maybe that changed my rating. I don't know. Maybe that changed my rating a little bit. So I should probably tell you a little bit about what this book is about. So this book follows a high school boy. His name is Tyler. He's our main character. He has a girlfriend, but Tyler has this long time crush on a completely different girl. And so Tyler is trying to basically make the decision about whether or not he wants to attempt to go for something with the other girl, or not. Sort of like his dream girl sort of thing. So a lot of people, it looks like they're saying they have a problem with the obsession sort of angle and the unresolved answers at the end of the book. I have to say that is actually one of the things I completely loved about Manic Pixie Dream Girl, and one of the things that I love about a lot of Tom's books. So Tom's books, in my opinion, paint teenagers very accurately. Teenagers, we're going through a lot when we're teenagers. We have a lot of weird and random obsessions and things that if we got a glimpse inside our own brains as teenagers now as adults, I think we were weird and obsessive and chaotic. And I think a lot of what Tom puts in those teenagers like Tyler is accurate, and I could totally relate to it, and I loved that. The other thing that I love about Tom's books specifically, but contemporary young adult novels in general, is that this is how I learned it is cool, I love it, to get a snapshot of a character, and that's it. So we get this little bit of that character's life. We're not going to get their entire backstory from the day they were born. We're not going to find out about everything they've ever liked, or everything they've ever worn, or everyone they've ever been. And we're not going to get to find out who they grow up to be, who they marry, that kind of thing. We're getting this snapshot, this part of their life. And I have to be honest, I learned from Tom's books and other contemporary young adult that I love that. I love that when I close that book, I don't have all the answers, and my mind can imagine a scenario for this character in the future, and I'm happy with that, and that makes me content. Basically, it looks like, looking at the comments and stuff, a lot of you, didn't totally love that. You love to have all the answers, and you love to have it all wrapped up, but this is one of the first books that I read in that contemporary flash style, that it's going to end when it's over, and you have questions and wonderings, and I thought that was great. So I'm going to say, if you like books that are realistically looking at what it's like to be a teenager, I highly recommend this one. If you are a teenager, I think you're going to love this book. Gets you, and it speaks your language, and it's things you can relate to. And if you are not a teenager now, like me, but you were one, I think you're going to love that. You're going to remember what it was like to be a teenager when you pick up and read this book. So, yeah, so for me, I totally agree with this. This book is underrated. In fact, the fact that it only had 400 and something reviews is going to make me say that I think that the problem here is just that it hasn't reached a wide enough audience. So I think more of you on this channel need to go grab Manic Pixie Dream Girl and read it. You're going to love it. Drop that great rating. I'm going to say that of these two authors that I just looked at for books that I think are underrated, I mean, obviously, J.K. Rowling has enough amazing kudos to her in other departments. So I'm going to say Tom Levine probably is going to top out my list of people I think are the most underrated authors. Like, you need to be reading his books. I don't think I've ever read a Tom Levine book that I didn't love. So maybe check out Tom Levine. Let's see. So another one that's popping up that I think may be a little underrated, it's getting kind of dragged, it had a TV series. So I don't know if maybe people's reviews were influenced by the TV series, but I didn't see it. And that one is Zoo by James Patterson. It has over 37,000 ratings, which is pretty typical for Patterson. It's averaging a 3.46, but I gave it 5 stars. So I'm wondering if the TV series influenced it, but I'm not sure. Also, reading the comments, it seems like there's a lot of people who just don't like James Patterson in general. Like, why would you pick up a James Patterson book if you didn't? I don't know. But I mean, I guess I read Nora Roberts, and turns out I don't love her. So who knows? I would say if you don't have an automatic knee-jerk reaction to the fact that it's authored by James Patterson, and if you're interested in a dangerous thriller about out-of-control animals, this is a good one, and I would recommend it. And in my opinion, that makes it underrated. Look at this. So this one is Mad About the Boy by Helen Fielding. I do not believe there is a Mad About the Boy movie, but this is the 3rd book in the Bridget Jones series, and of course Bridget Jones has a movie. This one has over 44,000 ratings, but it's averaging 3.35, and I, of course, gave it 5 stars. This is the first Bridget Jones book I ever read. So it's the 3rd one in the series. I did see the movies, but this is the first one I've read. So there's a lot of people ragging on, yeah, but how is she still looking for a relationship, and who cares if she's in her 50s, and how come she still hates that she's a size 14, and who said a size 14 was bad? And look, I agree with all of that, but the Bridget Jones books are not saying that anyone who's a size 14 is bad. It's just someone's inner monologue being very self-deprecating, and I honestly can relate to that, and it was nice to be able to laugh at it. So underrated if you feel the same way I do about that kind of a book. Okay, so this one was recently reviewed by me, actually. So I reviewed this one, I think, in October, in my October 1st 5 book, so I'll tag that in the comments. But I'm not shocked to see this one on there. I think it's underrated, and I love this book completely, but I kind of figured it would end up on this list if I scrolled down far enough. So this is Suicide Notes from Beautiful Girls by Lynn Weingarten. It has just over 9,000 ratings. It's a 3.46 average, and of course I gave it 5 stars, and I know without even having to look that people's problems with this one is going to be similar to what I talked about with Manic Pixie Dream Girl. It's going to be unresolved questions and books that leave you hanging, which I already said I have no problem with. I think it's cool to get that snapshot, here's what you get, and make your brain keep going at the end. I like books that make me think. The other thing I have a feeling people are going to have a problem with on this book is that it does have some dark topics and some dark character development. I love that. I love a morally questionable character. I love an openly dangerous dark character, but some people don't. So I'm going to say I think this book is incredibly underrated. My full review is, you can find it in the comments, but if you like dark books that do not give you all the answers and deal with some really dark themes, I think you're going to love this one because it was, in my opinion, underrated. So I only had one more that I gave 5 stars to that ranked average below 3.5, and I decided I'm going to put it in this video. I almost didn't, but I decided to just go with it, and it's a classic, so I'm shocked. The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, 600 and almost 50,000 ratings, but it averages in at 3.39, and I gave it 5 stars. So I can assume some of this is people who don't like the outdated language in the classic, yes. I can assume some of it is people feel it's outdated, or maybe you were forced to read it in high school and you weren't in the right headspace to read it, and so you hated it. I can assume some of that. But I can say that if you haven't read Scarlet Letter, or maybe if you're one of those people who hated it in high school and you haven't given it a shot as an adult, maybe take another glance at it, because this one is loaded with complex themes about secrets and lies and what holding secrets and lies in can actually do to us. And it has amazing, amazing themes about that. And it has great themes about what us forcing our beliefs on other people as a society can do to people. It's loaded with symbolism. I just love it. It's seriously one of my favorite books of all time. I've read it more than once. And I love the ending. The ending catches a lot of flack, but I love the ending of this one. Someday, if you've read it, and I don't have to worry about spoilers, I will definitely chat with you about that. If you're going to tackle this one, I'd say you have to be okay with higher vocabulary. You have to be okay, again, just like with Casual Vacancy, you have to be okay with that small town feel. You have to be okay with outdated ideals and things like that. But I love this one and highly recommended. So as a side note, I also can say that this book featured in my own book, Projection, because Emma, the main character of Projection, secretly loves this book, and it's one of her favorites, but there's also some theme crossover, some symbolism crossover sort of from Projection to, not that I'm saying Projection is on the same level as Scarlet Letter. I'm just saying there was some crossover and theme and it features, and that's fun. Anyway. So, drop the name of a book you think is underrated and more people should read because you loved it down in the comments. And subscribe to my channel so you'll know when I'm back. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Keep plotting the path to your dreams, and I will see you next time. Bye!